Hope you're having a fantastic week. Today we're going to talk about growth hacking. I've talked about it a lot in past videos, and just kind of a refresher on what it is for people who are new to the concept. Are you in homeschooling? We can accept a one-size-fits-all mentality where we just do what everybody else is doing, whether it succeeds or not, or we can be creative and say that may be okay for your child, but it's not okay for mine because mine deserves better. And so that's what I want to talk about with growth hacking. The title of this is Growth Hacking Your Way to a Great Homeschool, Perfectionist Beware. And as we go, if you're a perfectionist, you'll see why growth hacking may be a challenge for you, but maybe a way to also open up your horizons. So let's dig into this. Hey, everybody, it's good to see you jumping on board. Be sure to let me know you're watching so that you have a chance to have 2,500 reward points put into your account. We choose one person's comments each time we go in and do a video to just kind of share the love. Okay, so let's talk about growth hacking. I'm a marketer. It's what I love to do. It's what I study to do. I do a lot of things as well, but marketing and understanding what motivates people and influences culture and brings about change is what I enjoy doing. So traditional marketing is where, and stick with me on this because I'll bring this into homeschooling, but traditional marketing is where I have $100 and I go and buy one ad or put up a billboard a banner or put a sign up somewhere for this $100, and I design a campaign. I go to the company or to the boss and I say, here's the ad I would like to put up for $100. And if the boss says, wow, I love that, I think it would be great in this market, then we move forward and we put this ad up, and we try our best to know what the influence was of that campaign. Growth hacking marketing, and this is what I've done with Master Books and why Master Books, we always try a lot of different things. But what growth hacking does is it says, okay, I'm going to start with 3 different small ads that I can put up, say, on Facebook, and I'm going to just maybe spend $2 with each one. And after I see the response, maybe one ad got double the response of the other 2. And so maybe I'll test that against another 3 ads. Now I'm only in $6 deep. Then I find out which ad performs better, and I've only done small test samples, but I move forward, right? So then once I know I'm getting traction with one of these ads, then I'll apply a little bit more to it. Maybe I'll even refine it. I'll test it a little bit more and see which one performs the best, and then I'll apply more energy in that direction. Probably about 3 years ago, as we really started launching masterbooks.com and the website, that's what we did. We started testing different things, what resonated with people. And now as you see our ads on Facebook, you'll notice it's always almost the same thing. It's quotes from other users. They were reviews, and there were 5-star reviews. And you'll typically see a person or the product in the ad, and that has been very effective for us. But it came through by a lot of little teeny testings of what was working, what wasn't working, what words resonated with the market, what words don't resonate with the market, and we've spent our $100 very wisely gathering data of what worked, what didn't work. Traditional marketing tends to appeal to the ego of the owner or the business. And sometimes even like marketing agencies will win awards for the advertising work they do. And it's creativity, it's out on the edge, it does all these things, but it doesn't always produce profit or sales. Growth hacking has a goal. Growth hacking is everything I do needs to have a return on investment or move us towards the goal. So the goal of a growth hacker is much more defined as we want to produce sales from every ad versus I want to satisfy the owner or the agency or the consumer group that gives out an award. I want, it doesn't necessarily have to be profitable. It just has to be recognized. So growth hacking is very defined as a goal. So I'm going to give you 4 points. In these 4 points, we just had this illustration. I'm going to draw from that. But the 4 points are certainly something you can apply to your homeschool. So the first is to know the goal. You have to know what you want to accomplish in order to do it. In marketing, we know we want to see an increase in customers and an increase in sales. In homeschooling, I want my children to understand that they are unique, they are called by God for a special purpose, and I want to equip them for that purpose. So as I begin moving in that direction, that's the goal we have. Now, immediately, I can see where everybody else is. Why do we school the way we school? That's because it's what we've always done. They don't actually think about, is this effective in moving us towards the goal? When I growth hack, I have to actually look at what steps are going to move me towards the goal. I can't just go by a one-size-fits-all curriculum if that doesn't work. I have to actually be creative. And so knowing the goal is the first thing that you need to do. And it's hard for us to sometimes do that. We think, well, why do we school, right? I mean, it's just what we do. We went to school, our parents went to school, our kids go to school, our grandkids will go to school. But the reality is, education, what's come out of the education culture, most schools' environment hasn't changed since the invention of the chalkboard. So we've got to be creative if we want to produce better results than the average is producing. So number 1, know the goal. Number 2, this is the most important. If there's a quote or a takeaway on this, it's sometimes failure is as important as success as long as we learn from it. When I said perfectionist beware, this is that spot of perfectionist beware. For a perfectionist, failure is death, right? For a growth hacker, I have a reference point. If I put up 3 ads and 2 ads were bad, then I know that doesn't resonate with my market. So now I've already explored that. The what ifs are taken care of, and I can apply more energy in the areas that I know are successful. So failure is sometimes as valuable as success as long as we learn from it. Now, if we continue to fail over and over again and we're not learning from our failures, then it really doesn't do us any good. But in growth hacking, failure is as valuable as success. I spend $2 on 3 ads. I actually lost money, right? Because 2 of my ads would be bad and 1 ad was good. But what I learned from that lesson was what direction I need to move towards in order to be more successful. So once I know my goal, I apply a little bit of energy in a few different directions, see what works. Once I know it works, then I can apply more energy there. But I also take note of the failures. I think in some ways, whether you're able to do it mentally or even journal it or a small, some calendar or some way of noting with your children, when you growth hack their education and you growth hack your homeschool, be sure to make notes. I tried this, it didn't work. This did work. Or maybe there was a curriculum where part of the curriculum, the child's eyes began to sparkle, and then there was other parts where they just went dull. You're able to actually see in that child, okay, they actually really enjoyed the artwork, or they enjoyed the creative component of this, or they enjoyed the structure of this and hated the creative component. It's okay. We don't have to necessarily force that. Now we know what they're motivated by, and we know what they're not motivated by. Doesn't mean we have to completely abandon the fact that they don't enjoy creativity, but we know that they're inspired by structure, so now we can tailor to that way. So those are the first 2. Know the goal. Failure is as important as success as long as we learn from it. Number 3, not every hill is worth dying on. So we see a lot of homeschoolers, and this happens all the time in marketing. A campaign is decided on, it gets launched, it doesn't resonate, but instead of abandoning it quickly, we stick with it because we just want to refuse to accept that we must have made a mistake or that people don't want it. It happens all the time in homeschooling when people buy curriculum. You buy a curriculum and you loved it. At the convention, they sold it. They did a good job of selling it, but it just isn't working with my student. So rather than accept that and find a solution that does, and there's a difference between a student that's just not motivated and you haven't kind of found your rhythm and all of that, versus a curriculum that is just, it's in the home environment and it's a disaster. Years ago, a family we were working with bought a packaged curriculum. They went to a seminar. They loved what they heard. They came home. They spent, I don't know, $600 or $700 on this curriculum, and it was going to be perfect. The first week, the mom knew this is a lot of work, and I don't have the time to do the work, and the kids aren't really enjoying it. And the problem was, now dad had invested $600 or $700 into this curriculum, and mom had to figure out a way to make it work. And unfortunately, until she finally just came to her end and said, I can't do it, it was very frustrating for everybody. You almost have to know, like, when I go into this, failure is a possibility, and it's okay if I fail at this. If I choose a curriculum today, and this goes for master books too, I'll be the first to tell you, master books isn't for everyone. And if you use master books and it doesn't work for you, find a curriculum that does. Like, sometimes people will call and they'll be kind of upset because the curriculum isn't working. And it's like, well, okay, but it's not necessarily the curriculum. It's a bad fit for your family. And there's probably a better solution. So we bless you in that and encourage you to go find a solution that works for your family. But that happens with all the curriculums. There is no one-size-fits-all perfect solution in homeschooling. There just isn't. There's too many variables. We have mom, we have dad, we have children, we have outside influences, we have learning styles and motivations and all of these other things that come into play. So you have to be creative. And see, in a public school or private school, schoolroom environment, it's shoot for the average, right? And even when I was a principal of a school, it was the same thing. The challenge would be, we have 24 students in a classroom. We can't teach to the top level of the class, because if we do, everybody else will be lost. We can't teach to the bottom student so that they're getting their needs met, because then everybody else will be bored and unmotivated. So we shoot for the middle ground. And if we do that, hopefully the older students will stay on, and the bottom students, we can drag them along, but you're not tailoring it. With homeschooling, you have the ability to really tailor the education to the needs of the student. One of the things that we caution people when you're using a curriculum that was designed for school use is it was designed for the average or the middle of the classroom, but there is no such thing as average. And especially in homeschooling, there's just no such thing as average. So you can be creative, but know when it's okay to walk away. One of my wife's favorite songs from The Gambler, you got to know when to hold them, you got to know when to fold them, know when to run, know when to walk away. Hold those ideas loosely. So with every one of your students, when you come into this year and you sat down with a book, you don't know whether it's going to be a success or a failure until you've actually tested it. So don't be upset when the child isn't motivated, but enjoy the win when they are, and then this is the direction we move forward. But if something isn't working, kind of know that point where it's like, okay, we tried it. It's okay. Failure is part of the process. It's how we're going to improve, is to know what the success and failure is, and then be willing to step away when something isn't working. Planners. There are moms who love planners, who actually are motivated by planners, and then maybe you're more like me. You just like the idea of a planner. I love journals, so I have so many journals in my drawer. I have journals that are 20 years old that don't have anything written in them because I don't want to ruin them, but I love the idea of journaling. I just don't journal, if you know what I mean. And sometimes we see planners that way. And so now I just buy journals because I enjoy buying journals. I have a collection of journals, but I don't actually feel the pressure to journal. That sounds psychotic. Okay. In homeschooling, just because something is popular or somebody's doing it, morning baskets. Some families love morning baskets, and I think it's a fantastic idea. But if that doesn't work for your family, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up because it doesn't work for your family. You have the right to growth hack your children's experience. So, okay. So number 1, know the goal. Number 2, failure is important as success as long as you learn from it. Number 3, not every hill is worth dying on. And number 4, if in doubt, test it. Let's say you bought a curriculum. It was the world's best curriculum. You were promised at the convention it would change lives. And you get into the first couple weeks of school and you're noticing that it just doesn't seem to be working. Go grab a preview from another curriculum and just try the sheet. We offer sheets on our website of Master Books so that you can try a couple sheets with your student and see how they respond. Watch. Do they kind of light up? Do they like it? Are they moving forward? Is that something worth investing in? And if they do, and then you can begin to move in that direction. So there are ways to test it without having to spend $700 each time, for sure, just by checking previews and seeing how do you enjoy this style, or even asking the question of, I noticed when we got this curriculum, this is what we liked about it, but this is what's tending to happen. What do you suggest? And sometimes you get really good feedback from people just when, like with Master Books curriculum, we know our teacher guides aren't always ideal for everybody. So our first thing is to say, well, make it your own, own it. You certainly can cross off problems. You could go and, the internet is full of practice problems, right? So when you're talking math lessons for a living education, if your student needs more practice, Google search math problems, you can find pages and pages of sites that have math problems for specific skills. And you could add as much as you want to. And we'd be the first to say, if that's what you feel your student needs, then you should do that. You are the teacher, you are the master, you are the carpenter of your student's education. We produce tools. If there's a tool that complements it or does the job better for your family, then that's the tool you should be using because you're the carpenter. We're not the carpenters, we're tool makers. And we want to see you succeed. So when we're producing product, we're trying to eliminate as many of the friction points and be as wise about it as possible. But we also expect that you come to it and say, maybe I need to tweak it to fit the needs of my student. And in a growth hacking model, that's acceptable. It gives you permission to try things and fail and try things and win. Now, in marketing, if I spend $100 and get an ad, I have a very tangible ad campaign. People see it immediately. They're satisfied with it. It's good. Growth hacking is a little bit slower. And sometimes people are like, well, you've spent $30 now on failed campaigns. But see, when you catch the winning thing, you excel. And so as Master Books Marketing, we tested a lot of things. I go to conventions, trade conventions, and different magazines and media would come in and say, oh, you need to be advertising with this magazine and you need to be here because all these homeschool families are here. Well, we did a little bit of growth hacking early on and we found out, man, I can spend $1,000 on a magazine ad or $3,000 on a magazine ad and I don't see any results. But when I spend $300 on Facebook, I see huge results coming from Facebook and it's immediate. And so we found out a few years ago that a lot of our audience is on Facebook. And so Facebook is where we need to connect with users and serve this market and take feedback. I mean, this group it was the result of a growth hacking and it worked. And then it was like, oh my goodness, it's such a valuable relationship because we're able to serve, but we're also receiving feedback that we can make better product. And that growth hacking moved us into something. And a lot of companies, quite frankly, are kind of confused because they're still stuck in a mode of, well, I got to run ads and nobody's responding and sales are beginning to decline. But it's because the eyeballs all move somewhere else. As soon as we begin to see effectiveness drop in a platform, we say, okay, something's changed, start growth hacking. So the number 4 rule is, if in doubt, test. If all of a sudden something isn't working, don't be afraid to test it. And can I say this? What worked for your student last year may not work this year. Here's what's awesome. I have 9 kids, but every year I've gotten a new kid. So in the period of 12 years, right, because their hormones are changing, their experience is changing, I may have a bubbly 3-year-old, and by the time they're 12, they're shy and introverted. And then by the time they're 18, they're jumping off cliffs. One child just goes from extremes sometimes. So what works with a student doesn't always work, but that's what we are. We're growth hacking our children's education, because the goal is growth, and the goal is achieving the goal that we have for them. So what worked yesterday may not work next year, and it may not work 3 years from now. That's okay. See, that's why I say perfectionist beware, because I think perfectionism is it's awesome that we have people who are perfectionists. I'm not, but I know perfectionists. I married a perfectionist, and I value the perfection that from those around me, because I know without somebody saying you can't do that all the time, I would be a train wreck. But what I also see sometimes is the perfectionism can be a real limiter, because we don't take risks. We stay within a very closed boundary, because to step outside that may mean we would fail. And if we fail, it ends up, it's an embarrassment, it's painful, it brings shame. But if you adapt a whole nother concept of part of my growth, part of my perfection is the fact that I need some failure. In fact, there are some people who will set a goal for failure. So they say we have to have one big failure a year. And in doing that, they actually set the expectation for failure. So even if I'm a perfectionist and I'm at co-op and I see the poly-perfect family and they've got everything together, and I feel like I've just messed up 2 months of my kids' lives, I can say, but I expected it, right? So you just keep doing what you're doing. We're busy over here running some experiments, but when we catch our groove, we're going to be sailing on by. And it works. It's so effective. But again, let me go back to the beginning. You got to know the goal. You can't just try things for no reason, and you have to be sure that you're constantly saying, does this achieve my goal? I see a lot of different things in homeschooling where people will try different products or whatever, and really the goal may be, we may say the goal is to see our children advance, but the deep-seated goal is I want people to know how awesome I am as a parent, or I want people to see how much I have it together. In marketing, I look like a train wreck when other people were coming to the booth and saying, yeah, but everybody advertises in this magazine. And I'm like, but I don't think it's effective. It wasn't that popular. But now we've set a standard for the amount of eyeballs that people see, for the amount of money we've spent and the interaction we have. I mean, Master Books has just done incredible things through this growth hacking model. But in parenting, it's the same, and marriage, it's the same. I hate to say I growth hack my marriage, but in some ways I do, because what's working, what doesn't work. Okay, this is working, so let's apply some more energy there. But then I end up needing to adjust it. And so it's a model that I really like in life, but you have to be able to tolerate and embrace failure, because that's part of the process of growth hacking. So can I encourage you, if you want the perfect homeschool, then be willing to have an imperfect homeschool and try things, and let your kids know failure is part of learning. Failure is part of what we do in order to learn what not to do and what to do better. And if they can accept that alongside you, then they're also understanding we're experimenting here. We're working together. I think when I was pastoring, and I'll end with this, but as I was pastoring, sometimes it was easy to kind of approach everything like, I'm teaching this message, but I have everything together. And the reality was I didn't. I'm one of everybody else. We all humans, right? And we all go through the struggle. And so the idea is I will do my best to lead and to grow in every area. Law of the lid. The organization doesn't excel beyond what I'm willing to do myself. But we also, everybody needs to know, I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect. I'm not master. This is what I'm attaining towards and what I'm encouraging everybody else to come along with me in. As a parent, it's the same thing. I don't have all the answers. I don't have it all worked out. So we're moving things forward based on the information I have, the skill I have, the abilities I have. And when I fail, and when we fail, we're going to accept that that's part of the growth process. As a child, when you're teaching your child to walk, you expect them to fall. That's how they learn their balance. That's how they get their legs. But then all of a sudden we kind of come to the place, and you see this a lot in the group, right? Where we expect that a student who's falling is somehow missing it and mom's an absolute failure. But that wasn't the case when they were learning to walk. You just said, okay, let's try again, get up, and we expect them to start walking, and a little as they go, they get more stable and can walk better. Well, all the way as our children are growing, that process is playing out, and sometimes they're going to fall and stumble and not get it right, and we all get up and hey, let's do it, and they take their first step, and we get as excited about that each time. And maybe sometimes we need to be as excited about our 18-year-olds walking because it's an accomplishment, right? Okay, so that is growth hacking. It's finding out what works, applying a little bit of energy in a lot of different areas, retreating from the areas that didn't work, and then applying energy in the areas that do work until you start to see success. So that's different from this is what everybody else is doing, so I'm going to copy it. It's more, what is the goal and what do I got to do to get there? And I'm flexible and willing to do it. Know the goal. Know that failure is as important as success, and embrace the failure as much as success, even though we love to win. Number 3, not every hill is worth dying on. Hold your ideas loosely. And 4, if in doubt, test. Okay? God bless you guys. It is a privilege to be part of this community. I know right now it's just crazy here, the sales, trying to get orders out and keep things moving forward, answer questions as best we can. And so when you see questions in the group that you know an answer to, feel free to jump in there and give an answer. The moderators love having the interaction from people who've been there and done that and can provide some insight and constructive reinforcement. Okay. God bless you guys. Have a fantastic weekend. Talk to you later.